Hi, I'm John from Gentleman Whiskey. This is our friend Brad from the 717 Bourbon Society. And in this episode, we've got 3 bottles of Russell's 13, batches 1, 2, and 3. It's going to be nuts.
I cannot wait for this.
So in this episode, we're going to taste batches 1, 2, and 3, side by side. Brad brought batch 1. We have a split bottle of batch 2, and then this is my batch 3. I'm sure somebody else on the internet has done it. I have not done batches 1, 2, or 3 side by side.
I've side-by-sided 1 and 2. I've side-by-sided 1 and 3, but I've never done them all together. So this is new.
This is going to be crazy on the palate. I love my batch 3, as evidenced by that. Yeah, you've had batch 1 for a while. I missed out on it in PA. The batch 1 and 3 are kind of pretty far down, so you can tell we enjoy those a lot. 13-year age stated. It's a 75% corn, 13% rye, 12% malted barley mash, which is oddly enough the same as Jim Beam, but a very different ending. The rumors floating around is that there's some stuff as old as 20 years in each of these blends.
Yep.
Batch 2 was the smallest batch. You can tell what batch you have by the laser code on the bottom of it. I will link that in the description. Wild Turkey puts out some crazy stuff. The rare breed is perennially one of the best values in bourbon. I've actually gotten to meet and shake Jimmy Russell's hand, which is a crazy experience. All of that bourbon knowledge in one place. I was trying my best not to geek out. It was very difficult.
I'm a huge fan of Master's Keep.
Mm-hmm.
The Master's Keep series, again, they put out a banger this year. One of our buddies at 717 got one in Pennsylvania,
Mm-hmm.
and it is incredible. If you ask me, Wild Turkey doesn't turn out much that's bad. I'm actually one of very few that, is turned off by Wild Turkey 101. It just doesn't, something doesn't agree with my palate. I don't understand why. When I got my hands on Russell's 13 batch 1, it was actually one of my buddies in the Lehigh Valley.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to the Lehigh Valley Bourbon group. He's a member up there and had word that it was coming and was able to snag me one. I've actually not drank it in a while because I'm trying to savor the last of batch 1 because it is one of my favorites.
I have a couple of bottles like that. The Stag Junior batch 14 has got about that much left in it.
Yeah.
It's going to be a sad day to see it go, but it's got to go at some point. Can't take it with you.
This will make any bourbon enthusiast go nuts. So
yep.
Pumped.
I would assume batch 4 and 5 are coming out in the near future.
Yeah, I think when we got batch 3 together that day, was it fall?
It was fall. Yeah, it was like September, I think.
Yeah. So, hopefully that happens again in Pennsylvania and there's some sort of, rhyme and reason to how every batch comes out every year. But
well, now they're doing lotteries, so who knows? Pennsylvania constantly keeps you guessing.
Yes, so. 1792 small batches showing up on the special release page, but then Russell's 13's dropping in stores.
There's no rhyme or reason. But there's plenty of rhyme or reason to whiskey, so cheers.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Batch 1 has always been, it was the first, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it. It's just, it was the intro to Russell's 13, but I love batch 1.
It's heavily apples to me. Like it's very
hugely.
Fresh sliced green apples.
Yep.
A little bit of vanilla.
Like sugary candy apple. That green apple that you get, it's like a tartness.
There's oak influence in there, but it's really well balanced in.
Mm-hmm. I think there's so much going on. If you strip some of the other things away, I think the oak would really take over.
Yeah.
But they've done such a good job in the blending.
Well, and it's really cool that they have these 20-year, 13-year, 15-year, 17-year, whatever stocks that they can just pull from. To me, that is a testament to them doing a good job of balancing things. You'll love or hate Buffalo Trace, right? But they don't have that age stock that they can just dip into because they're constantly trying to put out newer, different products.
When I was first getting into bourbon, single barrels, it took over. It was the craze at the time. And, people like Bardstown, who is bringing back the art of blending, making it mainstream again. There's so many brands now in the past couple of years that have been releasing incredibly blended
Yep.
bourbons.
Single barrels are the ultimate FOMO, and that's the thing that keeps them popular. That's why stores have 10, 15, 20 store picks. You go to a Creston's, you go to a Sawball's, you go to Total Wine and More has loads upon loads of store picks.
Well, and there's incredibly good single barrels. So people search after those. There's such a market for like looking for a very specific pick from a certain place, certain time.
And the Russell's Reserve single barrels are incredibly sought after also.
Yes.
Especially the Camp Nelson ones. The Camp Nelson A, because I believe they closed it this year, right?
Yeah. Or was it late last year or earlier this year?
Might have been late last year,
Yeah.
I think it's time to try this. The nose is all but indescribable. You can talk about the individual notes, but it's a vastly different experience. So I need to taste this. Oh, wow.
So complex. Indescribable is almost the term that you have to use because there's so much going on.
It's going to sound weird, but it's like an oak sugar cookie.
So I was going to say burnt sugar. Like if you torched like Demerara sugar, and it's so nicely balanced though with oak because there's a lot of oak there.
It's like oaky, and then there's like that Demerara sugar in with a like baked good kind of. It's insane.
It is super good, and one of the favorite parts of at least batch one is the last part of the finish for me. It's a lot of leather.
This is going to be a stupid distinction, but there's like fresh leather, and then there's like aged leather. This is like a nice fresh leather. Yeah. Well, and people talk about the turkey funk and that being a thing, and it's a little coppery. Orange marmalade, drinking pennies, whatever you want to talk about.
Orange marmalade is a great describer. It's like chewing on orange rinds, and there's so much tannin there. You know, that funk, that leather, the oak. You get a lot of that on the palate.
The finish is like crazy. It's like sliced apples and leather. I've always said that I think the two closest major distilleries to each other profile-wise are Buffalo Trace and Wild Turkey. So when we talk about like things that are close to Stag Junior, this is close to Stag Junior.
Oh, this is extremely close. Great mouthfeel. Excellent flavor. That's what I love about Stag Junior and now just Stag.
It's all about the experiences.
Yeah.
Transition time.
Yeah. Cheers.
You still get some sliced apples. There's much more leather on the nose of this one, I think. Leather and caramel and like brown sugar.
Agreed.
I think that this one is a little bit more balanced on the nose. I think initially I like this a little bit more.
This has more dark fruit to me, like cherries and raisins.
We get a lot of that on Russell's 10, the Russell's 10-year 90 proof.
It seems more tame on the nose, and I think it is the lack of that green apple, that tartness.
I get a little bit of mango, like some exotic, like tropical fruit notes.
Orange peel, some of that same type of, you know, the exotic fruit. I think this has a higher sugar content.
This one feels older, and it also is, maybe it's just the fill levels of the bottle. But this batch 1 seems the lightest. Batch 3 seems in the middle, and then batch 2 seems the darkest.
Yeah, batch 2 definitely seems the darkest.
Enough talking about it.
Cheers.
Gotta drink it. Oh, man. That is much nuttier on the palate, I think.
I actually get a little bit banana, like exotic fruit, like you were talking about.
It's so funny because when you say banana, I don't think exotic fruit, and then I remember that bananas are from the they're from the tropics.
Fruit,
it just seems so normal.
Definitely can tell. I think there is more higher age bourbon in that.
The oak is harsher, but fades quicker, I think. And then there's vanilla, there's some like brown sugar, and the nuttiness is still there. It's like a honey roasted peanut.
Oh, that's a great one. Yeah. On the nose, I actually preferred more. Palate-wise, I think it's actually a little less balanced to me than one was. And I think it's because of the oak. It kind of punches you as soon as you sip it, and then it, you know, fades really quick and finishes a lot nicer.
Well, it finishes to me with like oak, vanilla, and sugar, and just a little bit of like cooked cherry, like a cherry cobbler kind of thing.
Yep, compote, if you will.
I agree. It is a little less balanced. This is hotter on the palate and on the finish. Even though I value balanced whiskey, I think I actually like this one better.
Putting it overall, you got to weigh palate and nose together. They're so close to one another that it's hard to pick one over the other. I definitely like palate on one better, nose on two better.
Yeah. It's crazy in the complexity that is in one glass. I don't even know if this is comparable to Stag Junior. I think this is comparable to George T. Stag.
Some of the Stag Juniors from earlier
Okay.
batches, like we were talking about batch
Yep.
14, which I think is incredible. I think when I had 16, that was a real notable moment. 16 just didn't seem to hold up the same standard
Yep.
that 15 and previous did.
We did a 4-way blind between 14 through 17, and we picked 16 the lowest, then 17 the second lowest, and then 14 and 15 were all but tied.
Yeah, but I think there was a time when Stag Junior and George T. Stag were very comparable.
Well, in the 2019 Stag, I think, was where that distinction was the most blurred. And I don't honestly think that's that spicy of a take, because the Bourbon Junkies had the same take, that batch 12 is a Stag GTS, whatever you want to call it, now that it's Stag and Stag. I would love to try it someday, but I have not gotten the chance to. Like, 14 is the oldest one I've had. This is on a different level to me.
Yeah, it's just you're batting in the major leagues when you have that much flavor in a bottle.
Yep.
But what Wild Turkey has is, like, you know, they've staked it on tradition, and it's turning out incredibly time and time again.
Yeah.
Why change it right now?
Yep. We got to try 3.
A lot more heat, more proof on 3 than I did on the others.
This is the funkiest. Almost smells more like a Woodford Reserve.
Yeah.
Orange marmalade, that like pennies, whatever you want to call it. Copper pot still influence.
I get like dark chocolate.
Yeah, we took a hard right turn into the turkey funk.
Yeah.
Dark chocolate is spot on though. A little bit of cherry.
Yeah, there is some stone fruits that help round it out. Something that's a little more mellow. The longer I sniff it though, that the ethanol is going away.
Mm-hmm. They're all the same proof.
They're different in such unique ways though. This one is crazy.
It's not as sweet.
No,
it's more
definitely
nutty.
not.
There's no vanilla.
It's like overpowering chocolate for me. I almost can't smell much other than like that chocolate and oak.
Yeah. Let's taste it. See if the chocolate goes away. Nope. That is chocolate covered cherries.
Very much chocolate.
After sipping, it smells much more buttery.
Yeah, the chocolate covered cherry, that chocolate orange, you know, that old candy that you smack and the individual slices come out of it.
Yeah, it's like the piñata of candy.
The chocolate definitely stays nose and palate.
So much oak to this one.
The oak is way more mellow to me than 2.
This one's the hottest, I think.
Yep. Definitely the hottest.
That's so interesting.
The $1 million question. Mm-hmm. Now that you've had 3, what do you think the big differentiators are, and what do you put on top?
That's so tough. I'm going to just rank them, and I will encourage you to do the same. I think 3 is my least favorite. I think 1 is my middle, and I think 2 is my most favorite. 3 is still the hottest. It's not as balanced to me. 2 to me is like a mixture of like brown sugar and cherries and oak and just this differentiation of really like deep flavors. 1
Agreed.
is just in the middle. Like that sliced apple note is what I expect from Wild Turkey. There's a little bit of funk. 3 were like really leaned into the funk.
Yeah, I would definitely agree that 3 for me is my least favorite. The nose is really, really good, but when you drink it, the heat is there. The flavors spike. It's one thing or one other thing. It's not a bunch of things at the same time. So I would put 3 last. I am really, really torn between 1 and 2. I think I might edge 2 out over 1 only because, you know, on 1, I love the nose, and 2, I think palate takes it. And for me, drinking flavor's a little more important to me than nosing. I would say 2, 1, 3.
I think on the nose, they're much more similar.
Yes.
I think the palate is really what differentiates them.
1 and 2, all of the same characteristics are there. How they present themselves was different. If I blinded these, I may even guess that 3 was not same distillery.
I agree. It drinks much more like a Woodford product. Now, here's the tough question. Would you pay MSRP or secondary for each of these?
3, if I could get it at MSRP, I would still buy it. I think 3 is still a great bourbon. The price point on Russell's 13, I think, is very fair.
Which is $100 right now.
Batch 1 and 2 can trade. If you can buy one, absolutely buy it. I would pay secondary prices on 1 and 2 for sure.
Your secondary is going to be, we're just going to throw out numbers here. Like, we're not necessarily big proponents of overpaying for whiskey.
No.
But I think for the experience. Knowing what it is now, I would pay $300 for batches 1 and 2.
Absolutely.
I get the argument, right? I get the argument that if you stop buying secondary, it'll come down. I just don't think we're there yet.
No.
If you look at other industries, right, we are more in the shoe category than we are in the GPU category,
Absolutely.
right? GPUs came down over the past year because they can make more. Bourbon is so tough to make more of because either you sacrifice quality or you sacrifice quantity. If you're making a really good bourbon, you're very selective in the barrels that you put into it.
Absolutely.
Or you make a lot more of it, like in the case of Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, and the quality dips. Final question. Do you think that 3 has made you excited for 4?
I think that's a loaded question.
Okay.
And this is why. To me, if you're doing 2 out of 3 extremely well, it would make me more excited to buy 4 because I'd want to know if 4 stands up to what 1 and 2 delivered. If I buy 4 and 4 is, on the same level as 3 or even only slightly above, I would be worried that we're headed towards what you said about Elijah Craig Barrel Proof.
Yeah, I think Elijah Craig Barrel Proof is good, but it is not the stag killer that people make it out to be. But I think Russell's 13 is the stag killer that people make it out to be.
I'm going to say 3 is an anomaly, and we'll see what 4 has to offer. But, any one of these.
Yeah. I would still buy any of these at MSRP on site. Under $300, I think I would buy any of these, and I think that's just where it is.
Yeah, agreed.
If you like this content, check out our other videos. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time. Cheers.
Cheers. There's a horse topper. I get it. It's collectible. It's cool.
Yeah.
Blanton's isn't bad, but for somebody who's got 200 bottles on their shelf, Blanton's might also not be good.
Yeah.
Don't buy it to buy it.
Right.
Don't get into FOMO. Soapbox.